100 days since Joe Biden took office as President of the United States. He promised to build back better after the devastation of the pandemic and the economic hardship that followed. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett takes a look at those promises and the progress he's made in making them a reality.
He took office during a global pandemic and made battling COVID-19 his top priority, promising 100 million vaccines would be administered by April.
We met that goal last week by day 58, 42 days ahead of schedule. Now today I'm setting a second goal, and that is we will, by my 100th day in office, have administered 200 million shots in people's arms.
That goal was exceeded this week. Now, more than 230 million vaccines have been given out, with more than half of all Americans receiving at least one dose.
What we're seeing is a president who continues to be disciplined, continues to stay on message, and also a president who continues to focus on the issues. And I think that's what many Americans like to hear from their politicians.
Biden promised to ease economic pain from the pandemic as well, delivering on a campaign promise to get direct payments to millions of people who were out of work.
It not only addresses the immediate crisis we're in, it's better for the long-term economic health of our nation and our competitiveness.
By the end of March, millions of Americans had received at least $1,400 or more to help pay expenses like rent and food. In his first 100 days, Biden also kept another campaign pledge, rejoining the Paris Agreement on climate change that limits greenhouse gas emissions. His predecessor, Donald Trump, had pulled the U.S. out. Biden rejoined the U.S. on day one.
I can breathe.
To voters of color, Biden also delivered on addressing systemic racism in policing. After the conviction of Derek Chauvin, the police officer who murdered George Floyd, Biden's Justice Department announced a federal investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department, where Chauvin was employed. And while Biden did follow through on his pledge to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for federal contractors, his plan to push for a federal minimum wage for everyone has faltered. His next goal, to fix America's infrastructure and create jobs, could be one of his most ambitious tasks.
The theme of this first 100 days could be characterized by terms such as bold, daring, and adventurous.
Biden repeatedly promises to meet the moment, building back better from the COVID crisis, channeling a spirit not seen since President Roosevelt's New Deal in the 1930s, building schools, roads, and parks, and lifting millions of Americans' wages and quality of life following the Great Depression.
Well, we can speak to Kimberly Halkett live. She is at the White House for us. Kimberly, President Biden definitely has an ambitious agenda, and he does seem determined to get it done if the first 100 days are anything to go by.
There's no question that the president is trying to build on the momentum of his historic speech that he delivered in front of Congress on Wednesday evening. That's why he immediately left Washington to travel to the U.S. state of Georgia, one that helped him win the White House, in order to talk about some of the proposals he's put forward in his speech. He has spent and is spending an enormous amount of money, some $6 trillion, on his various packages. That's what makes this so ambitious in terms of the price tag, but also in terms of the goals, not just the rescue plan that was put in place to help Americans heal from the pandemic, but also the jobs plan, which will rebuild America's infrastructure and help to create employment for millions of Americans still out of work, and the families plan, which will introduce education at the early childhood level and also post-secondary. These are really revolutionary ideas in the United States. It's an expansion of the social safety net not seen in multiple generations. And the president believes the time is now. That's why he's selling this hard. And he believes that there is an intensity that is necessary in order to make sure that it happens.
And I guess, though, a lot of people, especially those who didn't vote for President Biden, might be opposed to parts of that agenda. So what are the major challenges in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, some of it is working with Congress. There's no question about it. Not all of this has been pushed through. A lot of what you hear in these speeches to Congress are simply ideas that they hope will happen. And so some of that, particularly when it comes to the families plan, is a challenge for Joe Biden, not just because conservatives are opposed to it. They're opposed to the taxation that is necessary to pay for it on corporations, also on high income earners. They see that as a job killer, but also some members of the Democratic Party, some of the more moderates in the Democratic Party, because the ideas that Joe Biden is proposing are what is called progressive in the United States. In other words, farther left than a lot of Democrats feel comfortable. So this is the challenge for him, to win over those skeptical conservatives, but also members of the Democratic Party.
Kimberly Halkett with the latest from the White House. Kimberly, thank you. And still to come here on Al Jazeera.